Welcome to Never Too Serious with Scott and Dave. I'm Scott.
And I'm Dave.
It's been a little while since we met.
Yeah.
Those of you listening probably don't know. I had a little birthday and took a little break, and it feels odd to come back, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it is great to be back. It really feels like it's been a long time, and it's only been a week.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
But there's been a lot of stuff going on, so maybe that's why. There's been a lot of life happening in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. So. One of the things that's been kind of making some headlines and making me nervous is China.
What? China? Gosh, who would have thought that? Maybe President Trump might have brought that up a few times.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't think China was that big of a scare. Just with, regular news and, different things that I hear, I didn't think it was that big of a deal until I started to actually do a little research for the show. And to be honest, I'm a little concerned now about China. Well,
yeah, it's a bum. I always say a bummer. It is a bummer that because Chinese it's a beautiful culture. There's a lot of beautiful people there, but the government of China is, it's a communist government.
They're communist,
so I mean that should explain a lot. But they are the biggest threat to us there is. A lot of people just think Russia. But, and mind you, they're a threat, but not like China. Mm-hmm. And China is particularly, I don't know, I'll say this. I think why they are a bigger threat is they are involved in all of our lives. More than we even know, than maybe a typical person would know through how much land they've bought and purchased in our country. Mm-hmm. To how much manipulation they have over our government, I'll say it that way, and we don't know the buys and sells and stuff that goes beyond that, and what the governments are doing, So
they're not very honest either. They don't tell us a whole lot.
Are you kidding me? They tell us a lot, but none of it's true. They'll always have an answer for stuff, but boy, it's not right. And we always find out that it isn't right. So, no, they're very, I'll tell you that they are very trustworthy. You could trust that they are going to be doing very bad things to you and that they're out against you. And it is unfortunate because there are a lot of good people, Chinese people and American people, and there's a lot of Chinese people that live in America, and China is just out to destroy us. That's like part of their agenda for so many years before Trump was freaking out about China. That's been on their agenda.
I think they do want to be the world power.
That's right.
They want to take. Well, the United States has been the number one world power probably since just after World War II. Probably. Yeah. And then China, went through a lot of struggles and really since, I want to say the late 80s into the 90s, there was some changes in how they decided to run their country. And I think capitalism was kind of introduced and a little bit more freedom in business. And they've really they've become very, very wealthy. And their production is incredible. They produce so much stuff that a lot of other countries wouldn't even want to produce because maybe there's environmental issues. I mean, even think about the chips. There's a chip shortage. Taiwan and China, I think it's like over 90% of the world's chips are produced.
That's what our concern was, is if they go through and take over Taiwan, we're going to lose all these we have all of our eggs in one basket, unfortunately. Yeah. When it comes to chips, for the most part, for those types. Yeah. And it's quite important. Mm-hmm. And if China's in control of it, we might still get some, but at what cost? Because
not only just the cost per se, but also the security risks.
Well, who's to even say if we're even allowed to get them, or that they're not going to be compromised, or they're very good at what's the real nice way of saying stealing? They're really good at reverse engineering things to understand how things work.
maybe we should talk about some of those things. So one of the shows I watched in preparation for this was actually a PBS documentary on China, and I actually thought they did a very good job. You can find it on YouTube. It is copyrighted, so I don't have any clips for it today, but it's worth a watch. It's almost 2 hours long, but there's so much good information in there. And one of them is this idea that China has stolen much of the trade secrets that exist out there. One of them was they were in this little shop or like marketplace, and one of the reporters was asking about these cameras, and they asked, "Are these GoPro cameras?" No, they're not. They're Chinese action camera or something, but they look identical. Mm-hmm. If you put them side by side by the GoPro, they look identical.
Right.
And then they went on to show like the New Balance shoes that are their own brand, but identical. Same color, same font, same design. Everything looks the same. I freaked out a little bit when they said, "Oh yeah, and then the U.S. F-35 plane, fighter jet, also China has basically a copy of that."
Scary.
Very scary. How the hell? I mean, that's like a top secret sort of plane. Well, and China has the designs for it, and now they've produced their own.
Why do you think it looks like they're going through turbo mode right now with their technologies? Because they're implementing everything that they finally have gotten, and they're being able to achieve, like their own airlines coming up. How do you think that they could achieve it so quickly? Everybody else has done the hard work. Everybody else has laid the groundwork for them. I mean, it's scary that they could do that. And they infiltrate, and they will find people to go in and get that information for them. Or, guess what? They buy it from us, and we gladly sell it to them, and they can do what they want with it. Mm-hmm. And they could, again, reverse engineer everything and go, "Thank you very much. We didn't know that that's how it worked." Mm-hmm. And make their own. This was, oh my goodness. This has got to be about 10 years ago. I thought I was the fantastic husband. Mm-hmm. So my wife was watching Oprah at the time, so that puts me in a position. So, she has expectations of her husband because she's watching Oprah. So I'm just kidding. So, but Oprah has these lists of Christmas and stuff, like these amazing Christmas gifts to have or something like that. I think that's where it was. Mm-hmm. So my wife likes these Coach purses.
Oh,
and right. I guess women like them. And they are higher end. They're not a Louis Vuitton, but they're a very nice purse that, might be affordable to some people that can afford maybe a Louis. Mm-hmm. So there was this one that everybody would want. This beautiful, dark, deep red, like that dark, deep red lipstick that's just shiny. And it was a pretty purse, if I could even say. And you can't get it anywhere. Well, I decided, look, and I found one, lo and behold, on their site. Mm-hmm. Freaking fantastic. And oh my gosh, it was like $60 cheaper. Let's get that, right? And my wife is going to be amazed. And she was. So I get it. And, I'm a dude, and I haven't been suckered a whole lot in my life at this point. But, I get it. And yeah, I did unwrap it. I'm like, oh, okay, China fucking came from China. but shipped from China.
Everything seems to come
maybe
from
that's where their warehouse is. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know who makes these. Italians make great stuff. I don't know who makes these. Mm-hmm. But anyways, so I wrap it up Christmas, and she opens it up, and I'm like sitting there going, oh, I just can't wait, because she's going to be excited. I know how much she loved this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. She didn't need any Chinese wrapper on it. Mm-hmm. She opens it up, and I'm not kidding you, it was probably 3 seconds. And she goes, oh, it was amazement, but she knew it wasn't real. Yeah. And mind you, the purse is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's just not one of theirs. Mm-hmm. She just noticed that the buckles wouldn't be that. They wouldn't do that with the buckles, weren't that way. Mm-hmm. How this was, but it was the purse, but it wasn't the purse. Mm-hmm. And I felt so suckered. and I showed it to her, and we looked it up, and guess what? The site was identical. Pulled it up to the other site. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that I went on eBay and I tried to buy one. Mm-hmm. No, the site was the site.
Yeah, they duplicated
So now
everything.
you have to watch out. Some of them that says official site, that's not the official site. So how do you got to make sure that I go and buy accessories for some of my hobbies, and I have to really make sure that I don't get a plastic piece that doesn't have the word spelled backwards, because here's another, I'm going to say this. So another example is a Magpul. They have like these angled foregrips and AGF.
That was hard for a gun.
Yeah, for to go up on the front of your gun so you could help, stabilize it and hold it. And some buddy of mine had ordered one, and the AGF was on it. That's the lettering on it was a negative. So they literally bought it, printed, and made their own. They did it backward. So that's just how it is. But we don't know. But that was somebody that bought it. I don't want to give them a bad name, so bought it off a company like Amazon. I don't know if it was Amazon or not. So, but you get suckered. You don't know, and there's this out there everywhere.
It's funny because you can see even on like Amazon and some of these other sites, if you read some of the descriptions, the English isn't very good. If you look at some of the screenshots, the advertisements, they have all these happy white people on there, and they're the families are jumping around playing with a dog, and very Americanized little picture. But then if you look at the description, they say like familiar instead of family, and there's going to be some
Gucci has an H in it.
Yeah, there's some weird thing about it, and oh geez, that's going to be some knockoff. But yeah, when they start replicating websites, you have to be careful because you never know giving your information if your information is going to get.
Well, I gave it to them.
Yeah,
but here's this. Here's the crazy thing is that purse is beautiful.
Yeah,
these people have skills.
Yeah,
and it's just too bad you can't create your own stuff and promote it and make your own. I know that's not where the money is. It's easier just to knock somebody else's stuff off, I guess. I've had a couple Swiss watches that aren't Swiss watches, but I don't know. I just wish that they would sell it as such, sell it knowing it's a knockoff. Because I've watched some documentaries on people going to get the best deals on the knockoffs but that's knowing, get the truth out there. You don't have to sucker people.
There was an artist that they were interviewing on this PBS NewsHour, and he was talking about how many who's the painter who makes Starry Night? Is it a Van Gogh?
I want to say that is.
I could be wrong. Sorry.
Vincent Van Gogh?
Yeah. Anyway, he basically does knockoffs. He replicates these famous paintings by hand, and he says that he was producing upwards of 3 per day, and he says that he's produced thousands of them, and he would sell them to these different touristy marketplaces, and they do massive markups on the price, and he would only make a few dollars on every single one of them. But he said that even though he's not proud of that transaction, he's very proud of the skills that he's developed by replicating other paintings. He says he's at a point now in China where he can actually come out as an artist and create his own work. And now he has some incredible skills to create his own work that
their government stifles their lives to even come out with their own things.
To a certain extent, yeah, absolutely. The government really comes in and regulates, and maybe we'll talk about some of those things in a little bit. But he was talking about just his ability now to paint so well that he can create pieces of art that he can sell and build a life for him and his family that he wasn't able to do the last 30 years.
Yeah, his own personal work.
Yeah. And there's a marketplace for that now in China.
Well, good, because why? Because China has been so it hasn't been Americanized, but the people want to be Americanized so
Westernized,
much. Westernized, and because they have their own identities, and unfortunately, they're thrown in the work pool so young and early, and that's what they are. They're just pistons in the big old communist machine, and you're having your own individual. Being your own individual person is almost non-existent. You have to do that while you're sleeping.
So they have, with modern China, they have one of the highest rates of billionaires in the world. So the most number of billionaires that are getting created are actually coming from China right now. And I just heard that their poverty line is $5 a day. So when people complain about America and the wage gap here, oh my gosh, look at China, the country that they're so proud of, the communists. And they're I mean, everything is controlled by the Communist Party, by Xi Jinping. He is controlling and making sure that the entire country is following what he thinks should be done. And to see $5 a day, and these people are doing, these factory workers, it's crazy to think that on the other side, towards like some of the bigger cities like Beijing,
it's if you produce what you're supposed to produce in that day.
There are billionaires being created on the backs of these people who are making $5 a day.
Yep.
It's
despicable because they don't have any rights. For them,
there's certain people that can't get out of it
for themselves. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's just where they like them. That's why I feel there's a lot of companies going that way because, a person without benefits is a person that's going to be working. A person that doesn't have anything or just has just enough to maybe not quite make it, but just barely almost think they can make it, they will work hard. They will find themselves in a hole and won't even have an opportunity to look up to even find another path out. I'm not putting myself in that position at all, but I've been in a company for 15 years thinking that I was worthless and there was no need for me elsewhere, don't look anywhere. And, it only got so bad to where I actually looked up and, oh my gosh, did it open up that, oh my gosh, I'm actually wanted, needed elsewhere.
You could go someplace else,
and be treated better and make more. And there's more options out. I mean, it's just.
But that's kind of the unique thing about the U.S. though, is that we do have the option to then take our skills someplace else.
I could look up and go somewhere else where they don't.
Where they don't. Yeah. Most everything is controlled by the government. There was, I think, back in the 90s, everything was owned by the government, and then they sort of put it into private hands and adopted more of a capitalistic society, but not fully, just enough to get commerce going, but it's still controlled and influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. One of the things, we're talking about control. One of the things that makes me nervous is the amount of social control that they have. They have so many cameras. And facial recognition, and more than just facial recognition. You can see camera footage of people walking, and it's identifying them based on the type of walking that they do.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's really crazy. And you think about how many people are wearing masks and ways to get around facial recognition. They're able to get around it. Their AI is some of the best in the world, and they're figuring out ways to identify people. And the technology that they have been building is in pretty much, you think about your cell phone in everyone's hand. That right there is tracking people and their habits. They have this really interesting thing.
Yeah, get a VPN.
Yeah, but they don't even allow it. China controls their internet.
No, I'm telling us why we can.
That's why we. Yeah,
but that's right. But while you're talking about this, no, go ahead. Just nope. I don't want to interrupt.
Well, so they have the closed caption, or is that closed caption? Closed circuit TV. That's it.
Okay.
Where it's really controlled in these different cities, but then it's fed into these databases, and so they use it as a way to track their population, and they start doing these things that are like what we would consider like a credit score, but it's really like a social.
It's a social. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you comply well, you could have a very good social score.
That's right. And that's the hard thing is, we live in somewhat of a free society, but some of these technologies are getting implemented here in the United States. And if we want to look at where things might end up, we just have to look to China. And China is actually expanding this type of stuff to other countries and obligating those other countries through financial and some other pressures to adopt some of the Chinese and some of the data that's being collected is actually getting fed back to China. So China not only is information about their own population, but information about populations from other countries.
So because of all that, all the people that have to work and they're with crud wages, because that's the majority. I was trying to look it up because in my head, I wanted to say something, but I don't know in my head. I thought that they had a high suicide rate. And I know that having all this work and stress and pressure and not be able to create or not making ends meet and could create that. But I don't know if it's high per, by comparison or not. But I had thought I heard that at one point, but I don't know if that's a issue there.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of brainwashing that goes on in a communist society, but once you've sort of been broken and start following, and that's what you do.
But then people are born into it too, so they don't know any.
They don't know any different. Yeah,
it's not. I guess when I look outward, and the same thing with most of us, when we we could see all these countries, we could see all these people's lives going on in all these different countries. And we judge it. We judge it so much. I'm like, wait a minute. We can't expect not even close that they would act like we would here. And we forget that that's their norm. That's our worst day is their best day, in a sense. We forget how much pride we should have in this. Some people think shithole of a country. Because this shithole is the best country out there.
There's a lot of supporters of communism or socialism in the United States, and some people look at China as a good example of some things that we need to do in order to control certain aspects of our population, like conservatives. One of the things about this state surveillance that they have, along with this social credit system that they have in place, they use these different apps on their phone, like to schedule doctor's appointments, to keep medical records. Certain cities are much more modernized, where way out in the country, people aren't even driving, and they don't have any kind of like credit score, so they have no way to do like a bank loan or anything like that. Well, this state surveillance, it tracks all of these people so much that because they don't necessarily have a credit score, they use this social score to get discounts on different products, different services. Sometimes they get preference. So if for instance, to get a car, you have to be on some sort of like lottery. You have to be approved by the state, the country, or whatever, in order to get the right to drive, or get permission to drive. Yeah. And one of the ways that they do that is through the social scoring. They even have the cameras at the intersections monitoring people walking across the road. And if they jaywalk, or if they go outside of wherever they're supposed to be, they're identified, and they're put on these public like television areas at like bus stops and other like storefronts and stuff.
Troublemakers.
They will
publicly shame them.
Publicly shame them, exactly. Now, with that being said,
I don't know if that's bad.
I'm about to agree with you. I was listening, and this was a number of years ago. I was listening to a local radio guy. In fact, he's now nationally, Lars Larson, and he was talking about bringing back some public shaming to handle some of these lower level crimes, because public shaming is kind of it's a good deterrent.
Well, a lot of these are juvenile crimes, and that's a juvenile way to just, to embarrass them, because that's their mindset, in my opinion, to maybe straighten them out.
Well, so one of our recent podcasts was about Ted Cruz talking about this lady who was not prosecuting crimes, and some of those lower level crimes, you could do some public shaming and avoid the jail overpopulation and other problems that we might run into, but still get some sort of consequence out of the deal. And public shaming might be one of those things. Now, in China, they take it to a different level, though. I don't want to go to that level, and I don't want to have people on camera out in public, crossing the street inappropriately, or who knows, wearing the wrong thing, or having some sort of free speech sign or whatever, and
I want pickpocketers, people that steal from you, somebody that'll physically beat you as you walk past you, you know.
But just for them to have this capability of being able to recognize someone and out them, and then put their other information, because their medical information is available, what limited social media that they have also is available. Anything that is on those devices is collected via the Communist Party and can be used in a lot of different ways to make someone go kill themselves, right?
Right. Well, and it'll teach them how to control their population better.
That's what it's about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it worries me when, let's just say we have a company that will say, hey, why don't you guys volunteer to come on in and, volunteer and give up. We have some people here from an insurance company like to ask some questions and volunteer. People are like, sure, because why? They could get away from work for an hour. I don't know why. You get nothing out of it. They get information about you and your issues. And now they could go, this place has this many obese people, this many people with this issue and this issue and this issue. Next time we do a contract with them, we're going to hike it up. We're going to make them pay. There's any information, my goodness, is rarely ever used. I want to say never. Rarely ever used positively for you, or back to the people that gave the information. Same with car insurance. The more information they know, the more you're paying out your pocket. I don't want you to know anything, but
Well, think about the power that a government has versus the power that a company has. It's bad enough that Google and Facebook and others collect so much data. I mean, data that's more valuable than oil.
Anything.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that your information is actually really valuable to people because they can do a lot of different things with it.
I will have to tell you that is got to be the biggest currency. That's the most important thing out there than oil. Oh, you already said oil. I was going to try to say, well, what else? Fentanyl. I don't know. Drugs.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else out there that's more. That's more important than that.
Yeah. There's a company. In fact, I think I wrote it down here. A telecom company. Huawei. Is that how you say it?
Sure. I don't know.
They are a major manufacturer of cell phones and other technology. 5G is one of the big things. It's one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and they're in China, and it appears that they're actually kind of an arm of the Chinese government, and they have partnered with other countries to develop the surveillance systems in other countries, and this is where other countries partner up with China, and they have to relinquish a certain amount in order to get these systems. And of course, these are not Americanized, free, liberty sort of populations. These are countries that want to control their population, to control, they say crime, but at what level, right? The slippery slope. But this company ends up bringing back all of that valuable data back to the Chinese government. And now you've got some foreign entity that could be doing some things for someday in the future when China really does want to take over as the world leading superpower.
Right. And I'm telling you that they have, I don't know if it's on a chalkboard. I'm old. But there's a list of to-dos to get that done. And that's been up there for a long time. Have they had to erase it and move things around because things didn't work out right, because they weren't planning on things? And or have things happen like COVID that could move things around on that list, that could speed things up. But regardless, there's been a list for a long, long time, and we are in their damn way. And they have done. Here's the scary thing for me is it's not only have they been doing so much in their country, trying to spread out, buying land, doing all this stuff to infiltrate, if you will. An example is Eric Swalwell. Remember him?
Yeah.
He had a
Chinese spy.
He, I think, denies having sex with her and all that good stuff. Well, that's fine. But regardless,
well, he
was fraternizing with her for a while.
And he's a congressman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's part of our government.
And an issue is why did it stop? I wanted to know more about it. Why is it not an issue?
Mm-hmm.
And how come it was just a small concern? And what extinguishes that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and why is it? And so there's more. There's more than one. You know.
Sure.
And so, you know. So how about this? I get that there's people out there that are making money. LeBron James, he speaks out positively for China. Well, he makes a lot of money with them, so I could see that he has a business deal with them, so he doesn't want to speak badly about it to a point.
Mm-hmm.
So and I know, and I get that. And there's also, let's just say, there's Hollywood people, you know, media, and in our government that speak out positively about China. But I don't understand the public. It seems like even the public is speaking out positively towards China, more so than ever. I'm not saying everybody, but is pro-China. And I don't understand, because it's not just an idea that they could be against them, you know,
mm-hmm.
America. I mean, they absolutely are. It's on we're on their agenda. And it's crazy to see so much support for a communist country. And it's hard for me to understand where I can understand money and, unfortunately, our government, but you know, when you're sitting around a table, there's, you know, 10 people, there's probably somebody out there that's totally for them. And I don't know if they think, you know, those guys are underdogs. Well, I'm for the Chinese people, but I never am talking about the Chinese people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the Chinese Communist government. And here I'm going to get one of my examples is they came up with, you know, with all their technologies, they had tested something. You remember what they tested recently?
Yeah, hypersonic missile.
A hypersonic missile that could take nuclear warheads that can...
Let's take a quick break.
Uh-huh.
I want to come back and talk exactly about that and how it relates to the military potential conflict.
Yeah, good.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back. Dave and I appreciate you listening to the show. Please take a moment and write a review on Apple Podcast or podchaser.com. And since Spotify doesn't currently have reviews, simply telling your friends about the show would be great too. Also, you can always reach out to us at our website, nevertooserious.com, or via our socials at the NTS Podcast. And seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, thanks again for listening to the show. We are back. So we left off talking about the hypersonic missile that China was testing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the hypersonic missile isn't like a underground railway that they put in that's like super cool that everybody will want one. No, it's a missile that travels like up in near space or in space.
Yeah, at like 3,500 miles an hour.
And could just drop down on you anywhere they want. And at quite amazing precision, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might come for me here and hit the city next over, but they'll get me still.
Especially if it's loaded with a nuke. Which
it can do.
Mm-hmm.
Which they say, nah, we didn't do none of that. Right? Did they admit it? Last I heard is I don't think they admitted it. I don't know where they came to with, you know, we showed them a picture and, you know, with evidence. But regardless, my point is, with all this stuff and all of our civilians, with so many, I'm not saying that everybody seems like they're pro-China.
Mm-hmm.
And with these things happening that we all know about, and then with our, with like Jen Psaki, the spokesgal for the Biden administration, when she says a little ditty about, well, you have a clip, right?
Yeah, I do have a clip.
Why don't you just play it instead of me trying to mess it up?
All right, I'll play it.
Reports that China tested a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile over the summer to the surprise of U.S. officials. Are these accurate, and do these raise concerns about China's nuclear capability?
Well, I know Secretary Austin, I should say, was asked this question this morning and addressed it, but I'm not going to comment on the specific report. I can say and would echo what he said, which is generally speaking, we've made clear our concern about the military capabilities that the PRC continues to pursue. and we have been consistent in our approach with China. We welcome stiff competition, but we do not want that competition to veer into conflict, and that is certainly what we convey privately as well.
She welcomes stiff competition. If that stiff competition, let's just use boxing as an example. I mean, we could use all kinds of things, but we'll just use boxing. In other words, there's going to be a punch thrown back, dodge, this, that. Well, let's just say they throw the first punch. There's no competition. That's the kind of, you just end it all. Oops, we didn't get ours launched. We didn't get ours put together. We didn't get anything, but that's not what I want my administration to be saying is that, well, how about this? We don't welcome any of that stuff. Are you out of your mind?
We've just got, I think, kind of a weak administration when it comes to this sort of thing. I mean,
that's acceptance.
The Afghan pullout, I think, was a good example of how well our leadership is doing in this particular field.
I'm going to say this. Okay, the Afghan pullout. Speaking of China.
Oh, no, yeah.
Do you know who's in charge of the Kabul airport now?
Probably China, huh?
Yep.
God.
I mean, is there not any, if we had a diagram and, like people that have that yarn and you have issues, China issue, everything's going to stem freaking there. And there's not enough woke people. And, or I feel that there's too many people with their fingers in the pot, or China has dirty laundry or whatever you want to call it, has dirt on people, that our own people are working for them because they kind of have to.
China is looking for any kind of leverage, and they are patient with this. They have been working on this for years, and they will continue to work on it for years. So I was watching a little documentary. Well, it was like a news deal, like a 60 Minutes news from Australia, and it's kind of like a roundtable discussion, and the news anchor person is talking to all these different people about China and the military threats, the potential threats, and their relationship with Hong Kong and Taiwan. And they were mostly concerned about Australia and their country because they are, they still consider themselves, an enemy of China because they're an ally of the United States and some, other countries. And they were just talking about the concerns about the growth of China's military and how Australia is not prepared to handle any sort of conflict if they were targeted. And they're mostly concerned about what's going on in Taiwan.
Well, if you look at America, unfortunately, they've been working on minimizing our military. Now, during Obama's era, he weakened our military in a huge way and weakened the whole, if I could say it right, the whole status of what America was. How everybody looked at us.
The strength.
And yes, the strength. And then Trump came in and literally turned that around and made us strong. And everything that Biden has been doing in his administration has been weakening it. And even with his COVID mandates, there was potential of 800,000 people not getting the vaccination, which means they'd be out of our military
discharge.
And then when you have, I am happy if I cannot have that guy's name in my head because it was in my head for too long. But there was that military general that, sold out to us, our
Millie. Sorry, put it back in your head.
Yep. and making our military all woke, there's some division in our military, and I still believe it is the best military and the strongest and most dependable. And, if a military can bring heart, ours is the only one that could. I like China, as a killing machine as a military could go, they're doing all right because there's no heart. Heart could bring longevity in a fight, and camaraderie.
Yeah, I think brainwashing also does.
Yes,
that's the scary part for me is that we're talking about a communist country who's brainwashing its population.
But the difference is they are actively packing their military in.
Yeah.
We are minimizing. We're breaking ours up, and they're making them all think the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're making them all. I mean, there's consequences. I mean, there's consequences here too, but life and death of them better behave.
Mm-hmm.
There's consequences of you get kicked out over here. There's worse consequences of just misbehaving there. But they're growing and strengthening when we're weakening ours as we speak.
Yeah, people complain about our military budget, but look at what China's doing. It's absolutely enormous. I was listening to this 60 Minutes thing, and they were mentioning that China has built 7 artificial islands since 2013.
Yeah, that's right.
I couldn't believe. I thought, yeah.
Did you hear any reason behind it? Because I've heard it, but I haven't heard any. They're
all military
things.
Yeah, sites. Yeah, they're just they're setting up the capability of having airports and other strategic potentially strategic defense systems put in those places. They said, let's see, 3,000. Yeah, each island can be about 3,000 football fields in size. That's enormous.
But they grow without having restrictions, red tape. America has red tape on environmental things, and they could care less. They could just push forward. They don't have to worry about money. If the dictator says he wants something, he goes and gets it. I mean,
if you think about how China operates, they're concerned about their own interests. They started this thing they called the Belt and.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh, I did write it down.
You did write it down. I haven't heard it before, and you mentioned it.
Yeah, because it does lend to their military forces, but I'll find it here. They basically are creating roads and rail lines and shipping ports and some other things, and they are doing it in a way to make not only their ability to transfer goods and other things, but for potential military purposes, but also now using those same capabilities to extend out into other countries, which then potentially gives them even more of a foothold in other places. The United States, we kind of act as we're kind of like a world police, sort of. We do have a lot of friends. We try and keep the peace and not have massive conflict. China's not concerned about policing other places. They're not worried about trying to keep other places from lashing out or doing anything that would be against.
They don't care if they make somebody else unhappy by their actions.
Yeah, they're really just focused on how can they build themselves to be this massive force. And the United States might be at a disadvantage in this area in that maybe our resources are spread a little bit more thin, but I also think that we have some incredible relationships from the other countries that we're supporting, and I think in return would support us. One of the big concerns is Taiwan, because China claims, and Taiwan says no, we are somewhat independent, but they have sort of this agreement where that's not really. It's not really said out loud.
I have clothes that's made in Taiwan and made in China, so that solves it.
Yeah,
I should just take that to them. Look, here's proof. You guys are different.
Well, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge in this particular area.
Right.
A lot of the stuff I'm just still learning about. But Taiwan used to be a territory of Japan, and World War II, that was kind of where their relationship changed a little bit. Taiwan was really kind of taken care of and a good relationship with. They weren't forced into hard living. They were sort of babied and taken care of almost. And they are, somewhat independent now. They are, I think they produce like 60% of all chips in the world. And they have their own resources. They have their own independent military. Yeah. They have all of these different things. And so there's this big concern that China wants to take Taiwan officially and rule it, as China has made apparent. And so a lot of these countries that are allies of the United States think that if China does take Taiwan, there could be a military conflict. The U.S. and other countries don't have a military support for them. It's really more of commercial support, but we've also provided them a lot of military equipment. We've also had some military people over there help train and use that equipment. And so there is sort of a little bit of a partnership, but it's not to the point where they are a full ally of the United States. Well, and there could be conflict with the U.S. and these other allies if China does take over Taiwan.
Well, and with Taiwan Taiwan could be thinking one thing, and China could be thinking another also about America. Mm-hmm. Taiwan could be thinking, well, I just saw you guys doing Afghanistan. Are you guys going to be there for us? I'm just curious. Mm-hmm. And China could be like, I just saw what you guys did in Afghanistan. I'm going to make our move. It's just sucks how much. Seems like even whether we try to help out to do good or help out to do bad, all it ever does is leave a wake of pain, regardless if it's the side of the bad guys or the good guys. It leaves turmoil. It almost wishes that we would just save our money and build one hell of a dome or whatever around our place and just defend our place. And
it's hard to do with those hypersonic missiles.
Well, that is a situation. No, it's not a situation. Psaki just said, we welcome that kind of competition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were mentioning, the Aussies were talking about the threat to our GPS system because China, there's a space race and China is really pushing. And if China had the ability, which I think that they probably do, to take out, satellites that help with our GPS and other communication, that could really hamper not only the U.S.'s ability, but also our allies' ability to coordinate any sort of attack or defense. And that makes people really nervous because they've kind of built to be themselves. Like they can operate independently for the most part. Yes, they're dependent on a lot of trade right now with a lot of other countries because they're producing tons and tons of stuff. And so there is that dependency that they have. But if they were to lose those things, I don't think that they would fold immediately, considering the buildup that they've done over the last however many years and continually plan.
But that's also their push to go forward, so that it just makes sure that they have that continued strength. Mm-hmm.
I would feel much more confident about the U.S. and our allies if Biden wasn't president right now. I really think, the reason
you and 80 million other people agree, I and a million other.
But when I was doing this research, I just started to feel this really sick feeling in my stomach as I'm learning about China's capabilities and seeing listening to the talk of our allies, and then I'm looking at Joe Biden falling asleep at the last summit, and I just got this sick feeling in my stomach that if he's representing the strength and power of the United States and building confidence with our allies, suddenly I'm not seeing the confidence anymore.
Well, you probably still have the bitter taste of his Afghanistan pullout.
That's true.
And then you could see, oh, well, that's why. Look at it. I mean, look, it's just a disaster. Every single angle that they do is a disaster. And yet they even still try to point it out as a positive. And it's unbelievable.
What's his approval rating right now?
It's 6%. I think it was like 38% last I checked. But if you ask me, if it's 38%, then it's better. It's worse than that. The numbers are never seem to be exactly right. And if I ever read any numbers, it's always been, pro the president, pro Biden. I don't get a whole lot of negative things out there for Biden, well, mainstream, or excuse me, we don't get any truth out there in mainstream. I mean, even if we do, it's, they get through it real fast and then move on and never sit there and discuss it like they should.
Well, I'm definitely not as comfortable with the idea that China's gathering the power that they're gathering now than I was even just a couple of years ago. Maybe it's one of those things where you start to learn more about a topic that the more you learn, the more nervous you are about it until you learn a little bit more to find some level of confidence or comfort. Maybe I'm just not at that level where I know enough about it to feel confident that they're not a threat. But I really think that they are at this.
They are. You're right. I think you'd almost be a fool to not think that they are actively trying to find the best path to us.
Yeah.
And remember that. I'm sorry. What's that called? Coronavirus. Yeah. It came from. Yeah. It had to have been a country over there somewhere. I think it was China.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting topic about if it was, or, behind the scenes of bioweapon or a leak or accidental, a man-made gain of function action involved, or, so it's like, did they already activate it? Did they already start? I don't know. We don't know.
We're going to find out, though, because I think that there's more and more information that's coming out about it. And China did a very good job of shutting down a lot of the people who knew that were, Chinese citizens, doctors, scientists, or whatnot. But I think we're going to find out more. And it does point right now that it originated in Wuhan in a lab. Yeah. And it may have gotten out on purpose or on accident. We're not sure exactly yet, but we think that is the source. So I think it's not going to go away. We're going to find out more information about it.
It's odd that all these people that got shut down for saying all of these things.
Yeah.
And
censored.
Yeah. And now everything that they said is now fact, and Fauci will come out and say it too. And it's like, why did I get banned? He just said it,
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because we need to be able to hear those things.
Otherwise we turn into China where they silence everyone, and that's what we experienced.
Have you? Get this. So you said that. So it is. Get this. It's already common, or what's the word? It's already expected. It's that we say stuff, or there's words that we can't say because we're going to get shut down or banned. We've already given up our First Amendment. We've already given it up because we already accepted that this is the way it is, that people go, I don't want to say this because I'm going to get banned. These are the list of things I cannot say. And
unfortunately,
and they are actively banning and going through and watching people, and it's already happened. It's not like if we lose we've lost it. Do I dare say even when Alex Jones had his taken away? Because I don't care what you say, you should be able to say it. I've watched on purpose watch reality shows that aren't even reality shows. They're scripted, So I want that right. People should have that.
Right now, it's those companies. Yes, there's some influence from the government, but really, it's these platforms that are run by, independent companies: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
Massive power.
Yeah, lots of power.
More power than
Google is
other countries,
hiding search results that would be relevant to search topics.
That's right, and that's what we're talking about. Well, China will do this and censor and not allow the civilians to even see or hear what's going on in certain places. But that's happening to us too, and we're sitting here talking, or I hear also a lot of people talking about that if we lose it, but I'm telling you, we've already lost it, or else we wouldn't be saying things that we were saying, or people wouldn't be capable of being banned. It's unbelievable.
Well, yeah. Well, so here in the last couple of minutes of the show, what do you think? What do you think the future of the United States is going to be if we continue down this road with censorship and this idea that we need to celebrate China and their control over their people?
a lot of people, I think, are trying to be social justice warriors. In other words, say what sounds right, but don't really know what the outcome is. Like, free college, free this, free that, without really realizing where it's coming from and stuff. I think there's going to be because of a lot of those people are not understanding what's likely going to come. Like, we're going to probably vote in, like, make ourselves almost be a communist country ourselves almost, like with all these mandates and all this stuff that we have to abide by. Our economics are so screwed up with, inflation and everything that we're going to weaken ourselves so much that China will act on us, and we could mess ourselves up.
And it could be that they act on, like, Taiwan.
Right. They're waiting for us to weaken ourselves enough to make it where it's possible. And I feel, I know that we as a country are weaker than we were 2 years ago. We're divisive, and our military is possibly going to be getting weaker if it hasn't already, and under Biden's administration. So we are actively getting weaker, and I feel in a day to day as we go, we're going to keep getting weaker, and they're getting stronger as the day goes.
But they're also playing the long game, I think.
That's right, and they're waiting us out because they know damn well we're too strong. They're trying to take our guns. I'm telling you, it's like they're working for them. They're making us weaker. They come take our guns, make us weak. So guess what? Because they would never come and fight us on this soil, because we would have more guns in our households than they would in their military, in a sense. but not if they have people working for them to make it easy.
And if we didn't have the love of country that we do, then we may not resist nearly as much if a foreign entity came
And guess
through.
what? Everybody seems to hate this country so much these days, and it breaks my heart. It really, really does.
Yep. I hope that we get better leaders here in the near future. I know we just went through, some different elections. Some Republicans won in Virginia, which was
that was amazing.
A pretty big deal. Really tight races in, like, New Jersey. Some traditionally blue areas have the red has come out and shown that they don't like the direction that things have gone. So maybe there is some sort of change in America.
It gives you some hope for sure. I mean, I'll say anybody that doesn't fall asleep and poop their pants would be great, and fall up a flight of stairs, that'd be all right.
Yeah.
That would show progress.
I want confidence again in our country. I really do. I know.
I would love to be able to have a decent conversation with a Democrat without even having to talk about politics, and have a friend that's,
That's so true.
a left. I got to say, there's a guy at work. I had to tell him, sorry, I got to tell you, you're definitely my favorite buddy, but this guy's a really cool guy. He's a Democrat, and he's an atheist, and I had to give him you're my favorite atheist and Democrat.
I thought I was your favorite atheist.
Nope, he took it.
Oh, damn it.
You're my favorite, but I will say he takes that title there. So
yeah, I agree though. We should be able to have conversations with people on the other side of the aisle.
We should, and to even be which I am, believe it or not. It doesn't sound like it usually, but I'm understanding to even why they might think that. I would like to help them along with their thought process of moving along from it, but I can understand it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, let's wrap it up.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate that. Tell a friend. We'd love to grow the audience. You can find more information on the web.
Oh, you can find that at nevertooseries.com.
And find us on social media at the NTS Podcast. And until we see you next time, take care.
And be safe.